I'd like to call to order the HPC Commission meeting for January 13th, 2022. We need approval for our agenda. I'm sorry, let me call. I apologize. We're not in Persian. It's a little different doing this way. So yes, let's do the roll call. Dee.
Arlene Newman.
Present.
Chris Sturbaum.
Mm.
John Saunders.
Here.
Doug Bruce. Sam DeSaller.
I'm here.
Elizabeth Mitchell. Matt Seddon.
Here.
Renard Cross. Daniel Schlegel.
Here.
Sorry, advisory members Duncan Campbell and Derek Ritchie and Jenny Southern.
I'm here as Duncan.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dee. So let's move on. Election of officials.
So today's a little different. This is my first time working this. I believe that many of you have experienced this process before. John Saunders, you showed willingness to be nominated for chair. I haven't heard from anybody else. Is there anybody else who would be interested in being either chair or vice chair? Does anybody want to nominate someone for vice chair or chair?
I can do vice if no one else is available.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
So does anybody want to put it out there?
I move that John Saunders be chair and Sam DeSaller vice chair.
Thank you. Dee, did you check the?
Do we need a second?
Who's second?
Okay, and Marlene Newman.
Sorry, yes. Am I voting or am I seconding?
Hey, I'm sorry to jump in, Mike Rooker. I'm the city attorney for the city. I'm pinch hitting for Daniel Dixon, but there has to be a second to the motion before you can vote.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and now we're voting.
Are we voting? Dee, are you taking the votes?
Yeah, are you, if you're ready to vote, yes, okay. Marlene Newman.
Yes.
John Saunders.
Yes.
Sam DeSaller.
Yes.
Matt Seddon.
Yes.
Renard Cross.
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Terrific.
Elizabeth Mitchell just arrived.
Okay,
Yes, I'm here.
and how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the motion carries. There's 7.
Thank you, Dee. So let's move on to approval of minutes for the December 9th. I need a motion to approve.
Are these the December 9 minutes? because it says October 14th on the,
Sorry. That's a PowerPoint problem. Let me just pretend that didn't happen. And it is for the December 9th, 2021 meetings. Meeting.
Okay. I second that motion.
who moved that?
I move we approve the minutes formally, clearly.
Okay, and I second it formally, clearly.
Right on. There we go. Good.
Okay.
Move on.
Marlene Newman,
I'll pass because I wasn't at the meeting.
okay. John Saunders,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
I'll abstain.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Bernard Cross, Daniel Schlegel.
I'll abstain as well since I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, motion carries 4 and 3 abstained.
Okay, let's move on to staff reports.
So I sent you the staff report. No, sorry. Yes, so the 2 things we have are conflict of interest forms, which I sent to everybody. Please let me know if you didn't receive it. However, I will be sending you an email of where you should actually be sending it to, you should be sending it to, clarifying that a little later. But yes, we do need the conflict of interest forms filled and sent in. Some of you have done that already. Feel free to email me with any questions or concerns. The other thing is welcoming. We have 2 new members. We have some people who are not with us after the end of last year. And I thank them very much for I thank Lee Sandwise, Chris Sturbaum, and Jeff Golden so very much for the help and the attention and love they gave to the HPC and to Bloomington. I'm also very happy to welcome our new members. Give me 1 second here. Daniel Schlegel and Marlene Newman. So I thank you very much and wanted to ask if you had questions or concerns before we continue the process. It is a parliamentary process, so there will be votes for everything. I think everybody's getting the sort of the pace. And Marlene, I believe that you are a veteran of the HPC, so welcome back. Yeah, so any questions, concerns for now, or shall we continue?
Gloria, I have a note before we move on. If the commissioners don't have any comments or questions.
Go for it.
I just want to make sure, good evening members, that everyone saw my emails last night and this morning about the unsafe order the city has issued on the Johnson Creamery smokestack. Happy to talk about that after we address our other business tonight. It's not an official agenda item, but certainly is noteworthy for this body to just remind you of that communication. And happy to take any questions after we conclude our business. So that concludes my staff report. I see Sam has his hand up.
It's a more general question, so we can get to it.
Okay, I'll turn it back to Chairman Saunders and let him run the show here. So Sam, I don't know if your question was for staff then, or was it for the?
Yeah, so Gloria, did both Jeff and Chris step down from the commission this time around?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff stepped down. Yeah, they're not returning.
Thank you. Maybe later, John, we can do some recognition for them at the end of the meeting.
Absolutely, Sam. All right, let's move on to COA, staff approval, COA 22-05.
Okay, thank you very much. So COA 22-05. you have seen this building already. BRI had petitioned changes to the exterior in order to bring it from non-contributing to at least a contributing status. A lot of work of restoring the facade. They're not going to be able to do that. The petitioner, Patrick Murray, is interested in the property and wants to do some studies. As you can see in this image, the aluminum siding was removed from the front porch area, exposing the original wood siding. And so he wants to, Patrick Murray and Glenda Murray want to remove parts of the aluminum siding and the rest of the house to do studies and see what's going on in order to restore it. And the staff approved of this internally to allow for those studies to be done and for the facades to be restored to a wood, the wood 4-inch original siding. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Gloria. Okay, let's move on to commission review. COA 22-01, 403 East 4th Street.
So COA 22-01 is for a non-contributing structure in the Greater Restaurant Row Historic District. The petitioner, Sandy Solar, is requesting to replace the current ADA ramp. So there's going to be removal of the ADA ramp, current ADA ramp of the current garage door, and to replace the ramp with a new one, replace the garage door with a slightly smaller one, and add an additional man door. And additional 5 window wells for 5 basement windows. The rest, staff comments that according to the guidelines and window openings, maintaining the size, shape, and glazing pattern of windows, and windows on the ground level may be altered on case-by-case basis on non-contributing and contributing buildings. So staff recommends approval. The proposed alterations to the non-contributing structure do not change the character of the building or the district. The ADA, there's already an ADA ramp, and there's going to be a similar one put in its place. The windows on the basement floor are to be altered, but the sizing and spacing is to be maintained. The additional door maintains the character of the building. Here are some additional images. So here is on the left, photo of how it looks right now, and the proposal on the right. So the general size and scale don't change a lot. The garage door does become a bit smaller, and the window wells are going to be very visible and are necessary due to the flooding and issues that Bloomington has been having in the last few years. Let me see what else. Here is the floor plan where you can see the ramp, location, deck, the window wells are marked, and the openings are marked as well. Sam, is there anything I am missing from the presentation? There's a lot of little moving pieces here.
It's basically what they're doing. This building is owned by Dave Harstead, who's a former HPC commissioner. He says hi. Who was not able to be here tonight. But basically, this building got about 8 feet of water in the basement and flooded out the 2 residential units down here. So the idea is you're just adding a couple of feet of concrete block at each of the existing window wells to dam off the basement from future flooding. And they are redoing the drain down the street. So he's trying to take advantage of that and sort of, redo that sort of, which way are we looking? The western yard, clean it up a bit because the existing ADA ramp is kind of higgledy-piggledy, sort of wends its way down. So he's adding a little bit of deck. It's going to be very similar material-wise to what's there. It's just sort of cleaning it up and putting a screen under. And we're basically using the existing garage door opening and just filling it in with a smaller garage door and an additional man door so that the tenants don't have to go to the alley to get into the building.
Should we move on to questions? Elizabeth,
No, I don't have any questions.
Renard, Matt,
No questions.
Marlene,
No questions.
Duncan.
No.
Do I have anybody?
This is Daniel, but I have no questions.
Thank you. So having no questions, let's move on to comments.
I think Sam needs to skedaddle for a few minutes and then invite it back. So just step out and step right back in. We'll let you in when.
Thank you, Sam. Elizabeth,
Yes, I vote for it.
Renard,
Yes.
you have no comments. Okay, great. Matt, do you have any comments?
No.
Marlene, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Daniel, do you have any comments?
No, sir, no comments.
What about Duncan?
Again, Tim next. Duncan, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
I need a motion to approve this.
I move to approve COA 2201.
Second,
D,
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
John Saunders,
yes.
oh, sorry, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Bernard
Yes.
Cross, Daniel Schlegel.
yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. So let's move on to COA 22-02, 601 West 2nd Street.
So COA 22-2 is for the partial demolition of the non-historic portion of the hospital complex, where it abuts with the core hospital historic district. So the core hospital historic district is the historic portion of the core hospital. It is a minimal portion of the entire complex. However, it is attached on various, not on various locations, but on a sizable percentage to the newer part that's going to be demolished. And so this is, it counts as a partial demolition, although the historic portion isn't technically going to be touched very much or altered very much. So staff recommends approval and JZ.
Thanks, Gloria. As Gloria said, this COA would be for the selective demolition of the area around the core building that wouldn't impact the historic portion that the city council designated in February of this year. So as Gloria mentioned, the staff does recommend approval of this. We want to just set some context for this group in particular for where we are with this project right now. IU Health it's important for them to stay on schedule with their demo bidding, and they've been very helpful in helping us at the city work through all the moving parts of this. And so I want to thank the IU Health team. I know Steve Winters is on from DLZ, and Susan Callis, I see. And so it's very important for them to stay on schedule too, because they just moved to hospital and are working through a pandemic too. So this COA, we're asking for your approval for the selective demolition. I do want to, as I mentioned, set some context that we are still negotiating through costs of this. There is quite a bit of cost involved with the selective demolition and what would be needed to stabilize the building. And in addition to that, many of you have sort of been in the loop and seen public comments I've made in particular to the newspaper and in community groups about the ultimate fate of the core building. And the city is going through its due diligence process to assess the preservation, or if we would need to go to a full demo there. I want to be clear that this body would be involved, the city council would be involved if a full demolition path were chosen. And that is separate from this. I want to be extra clear that that's very separate from what we're happening tonight, but I feel like at this point in time, it's important to give everyone context so that you all know what's happening and where we are as we go through that due diligence. So later this month, we will have some more numbers, some estimates, we think, on what the carry costs of the building would be as it might await redevelopment. So as the hospital site project continues, the decommissioning of this entire site takes place along with the demolition of the current hospital building, now known as the Legacy Hospital. There's quite a bit of time involved with, if the building were preserved, when would it be redeveloped? And there's quite a bit of time in there. So we are assessing what those costs would be. And so as we go through that, just wanted to share that information. We do recommend this COA be approved for the selective demolition around the core building to separate it from those parts that are going to be demolished as part of IU Health's larger demolition project. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is the petitioner with us this evening?
We do have Stephen Winters from DLZ. Steve, are you on? I know it looked like the meeting, you're on and off the meeting. I don't know if the link was having some trouble, but Steve is the project manager for DLZ that sent the COA. So
yes,
I do see him on there.
I just wanted to say hello. I'm
yep.
Susan Kellis with IU Health. I'm the Director of Design and Construction for the South Central region. Steve Winters from DLZ is representing IU Health. And I want to thank you for hearing us out and taking the time to go through this, but I will let Steve address the technical aspects and any questions that come up, but thank you.
And John, this is Steve Winters. I am online. I have had some internet connections. So I'm actually on my mobile device. I apologize.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Questions? Let's start with Elizabeth.
Thank you. The part you're talking about demolishing, how old is that? When was that built? I'm just curious.
So this is Steve Winters with DLZ. So the core building obviously was constructed in 1947. If we go back to, right there to that image, the green highlighted area to the north was constructed in 1980. The blue hatched area that adjoins kind of the northwest corner of the core building was constructed in 1992. And then the remaining portion of the hospital that's depicted on this image is the hospital edition 1962 edition.
And that's the part you're talking about demolishing is the red part?
No, so in the lower right-hand corner of this image, the red highlighted area, that represents the 1947 building, which is known as the core building. So what we would be doing is taking the blue hatched area, which was constructed in 1992, and demolishing that. And then on the north side, there's a small little strip that abuts the north side of the core building stair tower. That's part of the 1962 corridor. So those would be the two areas that we would be performing demolition to separate the core building from the remaining portion of the hospital.
And what are the plans when this is demolished? What's going to happen there? Is that something that the city's deciding now, or what's the point?
I might speak to that, Steve, if you want me to.
Absolutely. Absolutely, John. Thank you.
As we navigate through questions, Steve, let's just trade back and forth if we need to. But Elizabeth, so if you're looking at the map, as Steve mentioned, the red outline with the pink in the middle is the existing core building. And that is what the council designated. Okay, so that under this COA, that is what is not being demolished. I won't say it's not being touched because they're going to have to intervene in some of the areas where you see the red and blue lines, right, where they're kind of combined together. That's where if I understand, Steve, that's where the demolition will take place, the selective demolition to separate those structures. When the rest of the hospital is demolished, the blue, the green, if I'm correct, unless the parking garage is in there, and the gray, which is the main hospital building, Elizabeth, that is part of what the city is purchasing and redeveloping as part of the hospital site master plan. And the master plan includes, for this area, multifamily and some single family housing, as well as retail and all that's included on the master plan for the entire 24-acre site. So that's what will be planned once the city acquires the property by the end of 2023. Will commence, and there's a lot to do before that, of course, but what you'll see here in the coming years is a redeveloped site with housing and retail and greenway and all that kind of stuff, if that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, that took care of my question. Thank you.
Welcome.
Bernard?
I'm puzzled as to why it is that second bullet point is in the COA. If we're not going to consider the future of the core building, why is it here? And if it's here, should we consider it?
Well, the COA, Renard, the narrow focus of tonight's COA is for the preservation of the building and for the selective demolition. The best way we felt to make sure you all knew where we were with this project is to update you on both of these so that you know where things are, and we were being transparent here. So, but this COA is very separate from any demolition, full demolition practice that would come forward. This is just the narrow focus to do the selective demolition to separate the two structures, or not just the two, but the core building from the hospital structures. So that is just more of an FYI, if you will, than anything we need you to consider. I just wanted to be forthcoming, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you. Marlene, do you have any questions?
No, I thought it was a really complete and thorough report. Thank you.
Matt?
No questions.
Have I missed anybody again, Dave?
You missed me.
You missed me too, but I'd like to cede the floor to Duncan.
Yeah, I don't, John, you're muted for some reason. I don't think I really have any questions at this point. The report, as Marlene said, was pretty thorough. I think I followed it all. Thank you.
Sam?
I guess my only question or concern is that the demolition immediately adjacent to the core building, is that going to be conducted under the standards of the Secretary of the Interior's standards for the preservation of historic buildings?
Do I respond, or do any of you?
Steve, are you on the line?
Yeah, Susan, I am.
Okay.
So I'll respond to that. The proposed demolition of the structures up against the existing core building will be done kind of in a selective demolition manner. So on the ground floor, there's an expansion joint that separates the two buildings. So the two buildings aren't physically attached on the main levels. So we will be able to separate the two buildings at the expansion joint using hand demolition methods. The only portion that is adjoined is on the roof. A portion of the 1992 addition was constructed on top of the existing roof parapet wall for the core building. That will also be done by hand demolition. So there won't be any equipment, performing that work. Unfortunately, I don't have the Secretary of Interior Preservation demolition requirements directly in front of me. So to compare how that correlates, but we'll definitely review those as well.
Gotcha. And I guess the only other form of concern I have is that if you are partially through the process and it turns out that you need to, you're starting to damage the original historic structure, I presume you're going to immediately stop and take steps to protect and shore up the existing fabric.
Yeah, by all means, we'll have language in our contract documents. In the core building will be monitored, not only from a vibration standpoint, but also aesthetically to determine if there is any visual signs of disturbance. And if there is, then work will stop and the demolition controls will be evaluated so that we can move forward without damage.
Fantastic. Thank you much.
Have I missed anybody else of the commissioners? Daniel?
I don't have any questions. I think it was thorough. And the one question I had, Elizabeth already asked.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the public? Terrific. Let's move on to comments. Elizabeth?
No comment.
Bernard?
No comment.
Matt?
No comment.
Marlene?
No comment really, except I'm excited to see this project go forward.
Daniel?
No comments.
Duncan?
I guess this may actually take the form of a question, but this came up during Sam's question. But what about protection of the building while the additional demolition goes on? It's not clear from the documents whether you're going to demolish from out front and then back in toward the core building and demolish that part at the end of the demolition procedure, or if you're going to start at the core building and work the other way. And this came up because the Secretary of Standards in general prefer that the connective demolition be done after the risk of any danger from adjacent demolition is over. And so I didn't know if you were going to start at the core building and work back or work toward it from the outside. Do you know the answer to that question?
This is Steve Winters with Yelzy. We won't know the exact approach to the demo until we actually select our demo contractor. But in general, we've talked to several demo contractors on the approach and some of the protection measures and how they can actually do the demolition to separate the two buildings while still protecting the core building. The feedback that we got is basically we would start demo on the west side of the site, which is the higher obstetrics area, and then move toward the center of the building. And then once we get to the center tower, then we would move probably to the south side of the building on First Street and move into the tower and get that portion done. Then we would probably start on the interior selective demolition to create basically an air gap between the core building and the remaining construction. So that way we can pull down. So what that'll be is it'll be basically selective interior demolition to remove the portion of the building at the expansion joint back a bay away from the core building. So we create separation. And then from there, we'll start pulling back the rest of the building. But by moving the area to the south and to the west, then we've got an area for equipment to work and pull the building back away from the core building with a designated air gap in between.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
John, you're muted.
I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve COA 2202.
Second.
Okay,
Okay,
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
John Saunders,
yes,
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Renard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
COA 22-03, 2001 East Hillside Drive.
So this is the newly minted Reverend James Ferris House Historic District. Jacob Bauer Burr and the owners who are here, Will Bianco, went and did due diligence, and actually to avoid the demo delay, had the patience to go through the process of the nomination for historic place, which has been, has been a very beautiful and well-received process so far. There is a proposal for alterations to the house, and these have also been done. The proposal has actually been an ongoing conversation between planning and us because there is a variance involved. And so I've been looking with Jacob just before, like, I go on, like, he's been in conversation with me and showing the process and proposal for quite a while. So this has been something that's been done with a lot of care and consideration. The original part of the house, most of it is going to be minimally impacted with the proposal. The parts that are proposed for demolition are the kitchen front porch, which you see here, and the lean-to shed. And in the back, the two-story walled-in porch, not walled-in, screened porch. There's also a proposal for that. You see the foundation under the wall screen porch. That specific foundation has been not collapsing, it's been sinking. And so part of the proposal is to restore it, to stabilize it as well. So here is an overview of the design proposal. The new construction, so what is in yellow and pink would be removed and new things would go there. Then give me 1 second. So here is another, so the sun porch would be rebuilt as a sun porch / room, and the existing kitchen would be removed and replaced with another design, and the existing shed would become another space. Sorry, I didn't include the plan. So an addendum was submitted today by Jacob, a little bit last minute. Let me screen share that very quickly because it involves the expansion of the new bedroom. And it also shows the whole plan, the new plan, which for some reason I didn't put a map there and I thought I did. So give me 1 second. So here we go. Can everybody see the PDF here on the screen? So the addendum is for the added where the shed is right now. There's going to be a garage / sort of guest room with like a little guest apartment with its bathroom and other amenities. And it's being addended so that it can have be ADA accessible and provide more space for the requirements. Give me 1 second while I reshare the rest of the presentation with you. Thank you for your patience, everybody, as we switch around. So part of the proposal, and here you can see how these renderings of how the new section would look. Staff finds that the petitioner did a very good, that very difficult thing to balance of doing something that looks completely new, but also plays with the original structure and doesn't overwhelm the original structure either. So the chimney and the angles of the new roof are called back to the original building without trying to imitate it and without trying to emulate it. He did bring 3 different proposals for the facade. So the Sugiban wood siding, the new tech wood technology, and wood shingles. And staff of the 3 leaned a little bit more towards the wood shingles, mainly because it is a technology that is more sort of, it's a callback to historic technologies and US construction without actually being emulating or pretending to be the original the original brick building. So yeah, that's kind of the presentation. If you saw the packet already, the packet has a lot more many more details. I can pull that up as well if needed. Let me know. So staff does recommend the approval of COA 2103.
Jacob, do you have anything to add?
I've got some images that I could certainly share if you guys have any questions about the original design we submitted versus the last minute addendum, which is trying to address some accessibility issues. And I'd also be happy to talk about materials because one of the reasons we offered the range of options we did is because we're having a difficult time sourcing and pricing, just given the logistics, the mess ups with the pandemic. So we were hoping to have a little bit of flexibility and see what's actually available and when and affordable. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I've got those additional images ready to share if that's an option or if anybody wants to see them.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to questions. Bernard?
No questions.
Matt?
No questions.
Marlene?
I don't have any questions.
Daniel?
Sorry, had trouble unmuting. No questions.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm wondering if the petitioner can talk about how they're applying these materials, whether there's any differentiation within on the wall materials, especially whether there's any differentiation of how the material is applied to the building relative to where it occurs on the building and where it occurs relative to the original house.
Sure. So basically, nothing is going to directly interact with the existing building. It's only going to interact at that perpendicular angle where the walls in the back porch are here. Actually, is it possible to? Oh yeah, I guess that'll work. That axon, maybe. So it's only where. Oh, I guess you guys can't see my mouse, can you? But we're basically only addressing. So there will be some reveals on that east side where the porch is touching, but again, that's a perpendicular. So there will be a little bit of a reveal. It'll kind of go in a little bit. Actually, there'll probably be a gutter right there. And then again, where you see the existing construction, but not original, that yellow bit. So that's running east to west. That will be reclad in the new material. And again, that's just going to kind of die into the brick with a reveal, right? It'll inset a little bit, so you won't see where they actually mash up to one another. So basically, the idea with the materials is we didn't want to pretend that we could match the original brick, and we certainly don't want to pretend that we were anywhere near as storied as the original structure. So we're trying to be as light in our touching upon it as possible, and we want the material to kind of fade back from the original and set that original building up as kind of the dominant structure. Does that answer your question? Or I can go into.
Yeah, no, I think that addresses it. I've got a couple other questions, I think, for Gloria at the moment. Could you go to the rendering that shows that back porch? More of keep on going.
Up or down?
I don't know. There was one in the packet that talked about it had a view, an axonometric view of the of the new bit.
I would have to pull up the packet. Give me 1 second here while I work on that. Sorry, I had a bit of a hiccup here.
I could share my screen. I've got something like it pulled up if that works. Or if that saves you some time, Gloria.
Yeah, sure, go for it. I made you co-host already.
Okay, you will stop. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can. So that was the original design. I have this one clad in a material that is not allowed in Bloomington. This is an old rendering. Is this the? Oh, you probably want it a little bit to the side, don't you? This is that back.
Yeah, I want to see where the roof intersects with the roof. And by the way, I did actually do a building of corrugated metal in Bloomington, so you can't do it. But you just have to get you need a variance.
Teach me.
You go look over on Anita.
Oh, cool. So this would be a parapet roof. Currently, there's a sloped roof. The current porch is a little bit sloped. It's a slightly different slope than any of the other slopes on the house because this is an addition. But the ceiling in the top floor of the existing porch is like just under 7 feet. So it's quite a small room. And so to get a little bit of extra room up there, we're proposing a small parapet, which you could also see in the Axon, the illustration. So that's the only deviation from the roof. Otherwise, everything's same metal, same pitch as it's all mimicking the original. This would be the one deviation in the roof. And then with that gutter, so that would lead to some scuppers, one of which will kind of actually help to mitigate, to knit together those two materials, the original and the new, where they meet on the east side.
Yeah, so I'm still hoping to see some kind of rendering showing the opposite face or the corner of that porch.
Let me see what I got here. Or if Gloria finds it, I'll happily cede the screen back to her. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Images. Let's see. Sorry, there's two renders maybe in here.
Would the elevation help, or would you prefer something at an angle?
That would be a good start. I mean, the elevation there is not a bad thing to look at. If you've got that, Gloria, snatch that screen back.
Do you want me to go back to the packet? I can take it to the packet.
Yeah, that's what I'm referencing. Some of my.
Sorry, here's the packet. What's the figure number?
Here we go. There we go. Right there.
Oh.
Page 61.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. These are all. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Yeesh. I gave you guys a lot of drawings. Sorry.
There we go.
All right, so it looks like you're basically you're cutting out that eave on the second story back of the porch, basically from where it wherever the porch hits, you're losing about a foot of roof of existing roof and eave.
That's actually something we're discussing with their builders. The homeowners have builders that they've worked with in the past. And I don't know that roof has to be sacrificed. I'm wondering if the parapet might just, so that roof interior on that would kind of essentially drain into that flat roof. I don't know that has to be lost. I think we can just build around, but I'm not certain. That's something that we're currently trying to figure out with the builders.
Okay, I think that's what I got for the moment. Thanks for finding that. Appreciate it.
Sorry it took so long.
Bill Bianco has his hand raised as well.
Yeah, just a little bit of background. The problem with the porch, we would actually like to keep it the way it is, but it was built without a footer. And over the 14 years we've owned the house, we've seen a lot of movement in the foundation stones, and they've cracked. The mortar's cracked. So we're sort of committed to replacing the porch one way or the other. Changing the roof is partly, as Jacob says, about creating headspace in the second floor, but it's also about getting the drainage right. That roof is not original, and it concentrates water in exactly the wrong places to gutter it effectively away from the house. And so we want to take care of that once and for all with this renovation.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Duncan?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the screen we were sharing.
Sorry, I gave it back to Gloria. I'll put it back up.
It's okay. It's back at the presentation.
Okay.
That's good. You can leave it there for now.
Mm-hmm.
What is the age of the porch?
That's a good question.
Well,
It's made with modern lumber, so it's not that old. It's not real 2x4s.
That's not answering my question. It's stated in this that the porch is not original, but I kind of like to have. I've worked for years on this house, and I'm concerned about the concept that because it isn't original, it's okay to lose it. Aspects of historic buildings become historic over time, even though they're additions. That will be true of your addition as well eventually, and and they automatically fall under the protection of the designation as is, if you will. So the fact that it's not an original aspect of the house doesn't mean that it's not a significant historic aspect of the house. And I don't see any, I'm concerned that there isn't any offer in this case to repair it. So, and I know it's been repaired over the years because I agree with you. I've seen some of the new material in it. So I'm putting that in a form of a question: is how old is it? Because it's probably well over 50 years old. It concerns me that you're considering eliminating it. And I appreciate that there may be foundation problems. I live in a house that's even older than this one, and there are no footings in any of these houses.
The issue is the movement in the foundation. We're going to replace it with something that's essentially the same. And if we could figure out a way to save the existing structure, we would, because it would save us money. The problem is that we've talked to a lot of contractors, and they've taken a hard look at it, and they can't see a way to fix the foundation without taking the structure off the weight off this foundation first. The various excavation and foundation contractors look at it and say, I don't want to get this into this job. So that's why we arrived at the idea of replacing it.
Well, I'll save my comment for comments, but you know, I think it's an issue for us that this is a historic aspect of the building. The fact that it's in disrepair doesn't negate that.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Duncan. Let's move on to questions. Renard? I'm sorry, comments. Renard?
Oh, I'm sorry. No comments. No comments.
Matt?
No comments.
Maureen?
Well, I do have to make some comments. I'm curious, well, maybe these are questions and I should have asked them during the question period, but some of the windows are a little bit disturbing in their proportion, and I think they're in the new construction. Is the yellow new that's existing and that's staying?
The structure is staying for the most part. It's not new. It is neither is it original. So it is not part of the original terrace house.
The yellow bit is staying and the blue bit is staying.
The yellow bit is staying and being reclad. And we're proposing to reclad it in the same material as the additions in red. Because so that's pretty. It's basically actually Gloria, if you could go to the demolition schematic. I think it's just one up or down from here, but you'll see that so the kitchen is there we are. So there's a little jog in the kitchen right now, and so we're just proposing to make that flat. So that little L would be taken out and it would just be made a bar between the two halves. But yes, otherwise we're not touching except to clad and to fix things to eliminate that little jog. That is staying as is.
I think one of the only thing that then I have a question about is I think that the garage structure is overwhelming in comparison to the scale and delicate detail of the facade of the building. And I'm wondering, and there's sort of this flying corner there that's really kind of weird in my opinion. But I like the choice of materials. I think that the staff was correct maybe in choosing the shingles as opposed to the other two, though they're all old materials. But I would think that when you look at the original plan and the structure and the way these things are jogged in and out, it kind of breaks up the massing. And I think at the moment, the garage structure, the massing of the garage structure is kind of odd in comparison to the existing building. So I don't know, I'd kind of think about that a little bit. But in a funny way, the variance that you're asking for, which is an encroachment on the setback, it might help if these things were jogged in and out a bit, and they wouldn't, be so equal to the historic facade.
Am I able to share? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Marlene, go ahead.
No, it's just that it seems like if you step the facade back a little bit on the garage, on either end, the sides, it would appear to be smaller. And it wouldn't be smaller, but it would appear to be smaller. And it might then not be so dominant over the historic structure. That's all. I would just and then so I don't know. I guess some of the placements of the columns on the porch are existing, but they're so oddly irregular that it sort of takes away from the facade or whatever the heck you designed there for the window in that yellow bit.
The yellow bit is original, and I wish I could take credit for the design. It's Pat Diamond, actually. You know him well.
Yeah.
Am I able to respond to that? I don't know the rules totally.
Sure. I mean, I'm looking at your renderings, and the locations of the piers are like really weird.
I think let me take if I'm able to share again. Sorry, Gloria, I'm gonna snag that from you.
Take it away.
The idea was, so here's the facade. You can see, I assume you can see my screen. I wonder if maybe Dan Green pulled these renders, and I wonder if they're a little bit heavy on. Yeah, it does seem weighted a bit in the renders. But so if we look at the elevation, these are the proportions.
Right.
And go ahead.
No, I'm just
the idea was that we were trying to make it look like a secondary structure, as you see throughout Indiana. Something not a barn per se, but something that was not a primary structure. And so the idea was that we did that we wanted to have some separation, so we have that breezeway, but still maintain that shape. We were basically just looking at a bunch of barns, and how do they interact with with a main house. And so we were kind of pulling this from the surrounding country area when we were coming up with our proportions, still staying with, and we've actually already got the variance. The variance has been approved. And part of the reason there, part of our reasoning there for where we located it, if you take a look at the, sorry, I'll scroll faster, at the packet, we were really trying to kind of respect a bit that those simple lines, those really clear, simple lines that you get in these I houses, which are just, yeah, these rectangles. So we were trying to maintain, certainly on that north public facing side, we wanted to maintain that axis. And so we really were trying to hold the line there and kind of keep everything in that kind of rectilinear tradition. However, yeah, you could absolutely, you could step it back. We felt that the thing to do in keeping with the style was keep it in line and then have the material and the size and shape kind of allow it to step back.
Well, it's your design, but when you look at these historic precedents, a lot of the ancillary or supporting buildings do step back and they take a second, they take a sort of a less dominant and less equal position with the main structure. I guess, you can't see anything that I'm doing, but the one that I think the one that's most disturbing to me is the elevation that shows now I've lost it on my own screen. The shadow study. And I'm not sure that the breezeway needs to go all the way. And if you cut the breezeway back or the porch back, then it will the facade of the farmhouse or of the garage will be smaller.
Oh, sorry. This
right here, this
okay,
one
yeah.
and that thing right there. And if you flip it on the other side, but it's your design.
Oh, no. I'd be happy for some feedback, Marlene. Absolutely. But you're suggesting, just really quickly so I can jot this down, what was the note?
I'm just thinking that corner makes the facade look enormous, and it's not really enormous, you see, and it's on both sides. And then I don't know what you would do with the other side, whether it would be stepped back or something, but then it would be in more proportion in the horizontal dimension to the existing house. And then at least it wouldn't, I don't know, I find it to be really, and I like the ideas. I really like the precedents that you chose. But if in each of those precedents, you'll notice that the buildings do step away and they're not aligned. And somehow when they're not aligned, they then take a secondary position to the historic structure or whatever you want. So I'm done talking.
Well, thank you, Marlene. I appreciate the feedback. As ever.
Okay. Let's move on to comments. Bernard?
No comment.
Matt?
No comment.
Marlene?
I think I just commented enough.
Daniel?
I think I'll just say I kind of agree with what Marlene was saying, that the structure just feels that much larger and imposing. I don't have any suggestions on it, but I do see what she was saying on that.
Thank you. Sam?
I guess I'll follow up a little bit with on what Marlene was saying. I mean, you're using materials that are very agricultural, agrarian materials. They're very humble materials. There's a history of corrugated metal and the charred wood, but on ancillary buildings and farmsteads and out in rural areas, but those are often separated from the main building. And you are using these materials immediately adjacent to the main building, which I find jarring. So, I appreciate you want sort of a spare, simple, form that complements the I house, which is a spare, simple form. But the cuts, and the cantilevers like there's no posts on the corner of the large garage. It's not really that large a garage. If you look at the elevations, I think that I agree the renderings make it look bigger than I think it's actually going to read. I think if you did a couple more renderings where you were pulled back and, you know, just looking at what the entire building looks from down the drive and didn't sort of accentuate the new stuff as much as the whole picture, I don't believe that I think the proportions of the addition are fine and complementary, but I think that the form of them, it's a little bit busy. And so with, you know, the subtractions of the massing on the garage building, especially, it becomes not, you know, a simple house form. It loses its integrity by not delineating the entire outline of the facade, if that makes sense. So, you know, the busy form on the garage, I think, is hurting you a little bit. The materials immediately juxtaposed to the brick on the house, I'm concerned about that. But I think my other main concern is that the existing porch, although it's falling apart and structurally deficient, and probably programmatically, especially on the second floor, in what you want, but from the exterior, which is the only place we have purview, the existing porch works a lot more elegantly with the existing house than the proposed porch. So I'm, you know, it just works. It's tucked in under the existing roof, and you know, there's a differentiation of materials, but and it's a pretty spare. There's not a lot of trim. There's not a lot of much of anything on there. But the existing foundation comes around, which you're actually not going to see the most of the next time because you're putting the deck on the back. So that's another thing that I really hope when they build the deck that it doesn't actually bear. You just post it and don't ledger it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. That's good. Okay. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll finish rambling here in just a sec. But it's just the way that the existing porch tucks in and under. It sort of once you sort of put up a parapet, you know, you're losing that simple form. So I think you need to look at how, if you're going to complement this house, which is, you know, a brand spanking new historic district, it's a lovely house. And part of what makes it a lovely house is it is a totally simple form. So I don't think the scale or the proportion of the additions and the spacing of them is at issue for me anyway. I think that the integrity of the form has been eroded by, you know, these subtractions and incisions, and you know, once it gets right up next to the house has got to win, because the house is the amazing thing here. Not to offend the architect, I'm an architect.
Oh no, absolutely.
And so is Marlene. So you know, we're you know, we're used to hammering students in reviews, but this house is this is a gem, and everything has got to be deferential to that house. And I think that's I'll stop with that.
One point of clarification, if I may, is that the roof actually does not fit under. It ends on that southern part under, but it actually eats into and goes above everywhere else. So it is not quite so nicely tucked.
No, it's not. But look, the way it reads.
It is a lovely. I agree.
Yeah,
it's a lovely porch.
You know, reality is one thing, and how it looks is all we care about.
Yeah, and it is a lovely porch. Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Elizabeth, did you have any comments?
I just wanted to say that Marlene and Sam expressed my sentiments exactly to a T. And thank you guys for wording. You had the quick verbiage. So yeah, that's all I wanted to make that comment. They made my statement for me.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Duncan?
Yeah, I think the problem with the garage is, as Marlene stated, partly that overhang adds the appearance of massing when it isn't really there. But I think the real problem with it is you've gotten your notion about sharing the facade axis, I think, is a mistaken one. I don't believe that you will find that historically to be the case in additions to historic houses. As a matter of fact, the Secretary of Standards calls for setback. And what I think what probably not through any real intention of yours, but I think what you've ended up with is a house that looks like it has a double suburban garage attached to it, because all the new ranch buildings put their garages foremost. And the last thing you want to see on a historic building of this age is a garage as a dominant force in the elevation. And so I think if you lost that overhang, maybe even brought, what that would do is allow for a little bit steeper pitch, which would be closer to your outbuilding notion. Also, maybe a different kind of door would help, and then just set it back. It needs to set back 5 or 6 feet to really let the house continue to dominate the site. The thing about this federal period that I think is a misnomer to some extent about rectilinear shapes, yes. Simple, no, not particularly. I mean, look at the replication of fenestration and door placement and things in these houses. They're quite decorative. Your garage is boring. It could be much more interesting on the front. And the trick, and actually I will invite you and the owner to come and look at an addition I just put on a 1836 house. The trick is to walk back the historic detail into a contemporary structure that gives you the contemporary fulfillment that you need, the kinds of bathrooms, the kind of open space planning, the kinds of all on one floor, ADA access, the things that we're all looking for, and continue to make gestures to the historic structure that are legitimate, gestures without imitation. So when you look at the Secretary's standards, when they talk about imitating, what they don't want is replication. That doesn't mean they don't want reference. So for instance, if your windowsills are at the same height in an addition as they are in the original house, that's a reference in respect for the house. If you have divided light windows, just like are in the original house, that's a reference. They can be Marvin windows and exterior, interior removable if you want them to be, but you need to find ways to continually make references in the new part to the old part without copying it. And I think Sam's comments about the porch, really, that's basically what he was addressing. This porch may not have been built at the time of the house that the house was built, but I would guess it was built darn near the same time, and that it was, and that it essentially respects that back corner. When you change fenestration to plate glass and go to large unfenestrated fenestration, if you will, you really change the look drastically. And there are lots of contemporary ways to do that mix and match that I think would really benefit this addition. The notion of the kitchen as a connector, I think, the fact that kitchen was built the way it was later on was really done right. It was clearly a secondary building, but it gave the original house the one thing it really didn't have, which was an operable modern kitchen. And to connect it to a garage makes a certain amount of sense, but the garage, if possible, you want to enter the garage from another side. It's just not on this site. It's just not available. So I don't know. Those are, I think I essentially agree with Marlene's notions, and I would restore the porch, frankly. And if you can't find somebody who's willing to do the foundation work, they're out there, because I've had that kind of work done. So I know you can shoot a footing, under a foundation wall. I've seen it done. So Those are my comments. And also the other comment is, sorry, if I'm rambling, is that it's very difficult for us to approve a C of A unless all of the details, all of the decisions have been made. So if we can sometimes approve them with certain options, option 1 or option 2, let's say for siding choices, but it's really best if you can't make the decisions at the time you present the original C of A to come back with a second C of A to clarify what those decisions are and allow us to approve the part that you are sure about. Because we can't, it's very difficult for us to say, well, you can do this or this or this or this or this, when, you know, what we're really supposed to be doing is approving very specific plans. So just as I'm just saying that as just to give you a heads up about the way we're supposed to operate, we really have to have a very closely defined project. And that doesn't mean you can't come back over and over again, you know, but if we don't get one closely enough defined to be able to approve it, then their only choice we have is to not approve it. That's all. And honestly, my invitation is open. I mean, I would really enjoy showing you another option on a historic house that's very, very similar to this one. It's an I house, it's brick, it's 2-story, it's federal, da 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 da. And I'd be happy to let you come and look at it if you want.
Thank you, Duncan. Do we have any comments from the public? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve or COA 22-03.
I move to approve COA 2203.
Hearing no second, should we move this to another meeting and allow the architect to make design changes?
I might ask if the petitioner is willing to do so.
I am at the whim of the homeowners on that. So Bill?
I assume that this is would be continued for the meeting next month. Is that the idea?
John, I may just chime in, Mr. Bianco, if I may. Sorry, just from the staff end.
Certainly.
Mike Rooker, maybe you can help out here. I do believe, I'm not sure we can continue a COA if the petitioner is present. I believe we have to do an up or down vote on the COA and then have them sort of resubmit, if you will, if you are not moving forward. So, because I do believe it is a 30-day rule, and I guess I'll ask if we have time there before January 27th, but if not, I think you may need to do an up or down vote here and then consider it at the next meeting if there's new material submitted, if you will, if that makes sense to the commission and legal.
Michael Rooker, city attorney for the city. I just want to confirm that John is correct. The commission is obligated to act within 30 days of receiving a petition for a COA. So there would have to be a fresh submission if you couldn't act on it within that 30-day time period.
It was submitted on the 30th of December. So if Bill and Jacob have time to work on it, maybe visit with Duncan and work on the design and come back on January 27th, we would be more than willing, at least on my end as staff, to put it on the agenda.
Thank you, Gloria. And Mike.
Okay, so Mr. Bianco and Jacob, do you would like for us to do that?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'll move to continue then.
Second.
Yeah, I second it.
Marlene Newman?
We're voting on continuation.
Yes.
So yes, I would vote to continue.
John Saunders?
Yes.
Sam Fowler,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Sutton,
Yes.
Bernard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's move on to COA 22-04, 1126 East First Street.
Sorry, COA 22/4 is for the petitioner is Barry Clapper of Spring Point Architects, and the request is for the opening of a basement egress window with an accompanying window well on the northwest side of the house on the western facade. So staff did take into consideration that the Elm Heights Historic District is pretty strict on new egresses, on new windows, new fenestrations in general, so carving out a new hole in the wall. But staff did take into consideration the following. The proposed window would be at the basement level. It would provide light and help the space go up to code for live as a living space, which is something the owners are looking towards doing. It would also follow the patterning of the front windows, which you cannot see. They are hidden by bushes in this image, but there are front basement windows with their own window wells as well. I'm trying to click here. So here is an existing window well and an existing window, and underneath is the location, the proposed location for an additional window. Although technically visible from the street, it barely really is due to the height of the proposed location. Here are the plans. So staff does recommend the approval of COA 22-04.
Mary, do you have any additional information for us?
Yes, thank you very much, Gloria. I'm here this evening to answer any questions, as is one of the owners, Jeff Richardson. I'll just add that they purchased the house, have been living in the home for about a year, a little over a year, and it's their hope to finish the basement so that it works as a living space for them, and a guest bedroom, and potentially a bedroom for a caretaker in the future. So that is the reason behind adding this window well with the egress window. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Barry. So let's move on to questions. Bernard? Bernard? Okay, not hearing from Bernard, we'll come back. Matt, do you have questions?
I do not.
Marlene, do you have questions?
No, no questions.
Sam?
Two questions for the petitioner and one for Gloria. I'll do Gloria's first. Have you heard anything from the neighborhood association?
I believe Barry, you're part of the neighborhood association?
I did speak with one of the members who did not have any concerns, and I sent out an email correspondence yesterday just to follow up to see if there was any additional feedback, and there wasn't. I hadn't received any anyhow.
Okay, so I guess the only questions I've got for you are what are the materials of the new and existing window wells, and what are the materials on the new and existing windows?
Sure. The original windows are metal windows, and those would remain. We probably, with the remodel of the basement, would come in with an interior storm window just to button those up a little bit more, but those would all remain. And the interesting thing is there were these poured in place concrete walls that create the window wells at the original windows, which we would replicate at this new window well. So it would be a poured window well, but it would be a larger format for the egress function. And the new window would be a wood-clad window. I believe these windows were all replaced at some point, not that long ago, but they were replaced, and they're all wood-clad windows currently. So this new window would be the new head height. The head height of the new window would match the existing head heights of the other basement windows. So you really would only see about 18 inches above the actual window well. It would look very similar.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth?
I don't have any questions or comments.
Daniel?
I guess my only question I would have, I don't know who this would be directed to, is if something were to happen to the bushes and they were no longer there, do you still feel that it wouldn't be seen very well from the street side?
Thank you for actually asking that question. I do believe that the owner has intention to re-landscape the front of the house at some point. And I know it is their intention to still have foundation plantings. So while they won't be these large bushes, perhaps in the future, there would still be landscaping foundation plantings along the perimeter as there is currently.
Okay, so the windows really wouldn't be noticeable even after they're, okay.
No.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Bernard, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions at this point. So let's move on to comments.
Duncan?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Duncan.
My question is, the new window, does it rise into the facade at a higher elevation than the existing one, or is it at the same, is the header in the same location?
The head is in the same location.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
It's okay. So let's move on to comments. Bernard?
No comments.
Matt?
No comments?
Marlene?
I think it's a fine proposal, and I think there are other windows/doors like this in the neighborhood, so that are fairly recent. So I think it's necessary.
Thank you, Sam.
I think this is sensitively done, and I'll support it.
Elizabeth?
No comments. I like it. I'd support it.
Daniel?
No comments.
Duncan?
Nope.
I have no comments. Does the public have any comments?
Duncan as well. Do you have comments?
No, I said no, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Thanks for sticking up for me, Gloria.
Thank you. So let's, I need a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, D.
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Bernard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, let's shift gears over to demolition delay. DD 21-20.
So DD 21-20 is a proposal that we have seen twice already in this HPC. It is for the release of the demolition delay for full demolition for 409 West 2nd Street. sorry, California Cottage. So the petitioner has already stated, got information, and I believe they are here to speak more on that. That the building, confirming that the building will be used as an office center during the construction, or sort of like a place, you know, to work from. And there is a bid alternate for relocation is to be included as one of the options if the project is released. So yeah, staff recommends release of demo delay 2120, mainly, yeah.
Gloria, may I make a note
Yes.
when you're finished? Just a procedural note for the commissioners. At a previous meeting, I believe the last one, on December 9th, we had talked about what the review time was for the commission on this. There was some discussion that there might be 180 days. There are in fact just 90, but the director of hand, myself, can do an extension of 30 days on this if needed. So I think the engineering staff had a couple things to update, but did want to clarify the timeline on this, that I believe the 90 days will be up on January 27th or thereabouts. And so we are getting tight on the timeline, but we did have another month there if we needed it. So I want to clarify that timeline from our last meeting with the commission. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Is the petitioner with us this evening?
Hi, Patrick Douglas, City Engineering. Like Gloria said, right now our plans show that the home will be used as a site office. We are planning to have a bid alternate for the relocation of the home at the completion of the infrastructure project. However, to still keep the project on schedule and have all permits in hand prior to bidding, we ask that the demo delay is released. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Bernard, do you have questions?
No questions.
Matt?
This is one of the New Hope for Families current houses, right?
Yes.
Correct. All right, I'll explain something real quick. It's a question and explanation. I had previously recused myself because the church I serve does work projects together with New Hope for Families, but I had a discussion with the city attorney about conflict of interest, and I actually don't see that I have a conflict of interest here. So so I will be commenting and voting this time around, even though I didn't the first time.
Thank you, Matt. Marlene, do you have any questions?
No, since I missed the other meeting, I'm going to just listen for a while and see what people say. Thank you, though.
Sam?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
I can't think of anything except, how old is this house?
Give me 1 second while I pull up this information. I have it in the packet, and we have talked about this before, and now my packet is frozen. Give me 1 second. I am sorry.
Or I'm showing 1925 is the estimated in the, excuse me, the estimated the estimate of the construction date on the house is in the packet. Says 1925. I've got that pulled up if you need it. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Daniel?
No questions.
I don't have any questions at this point. I'll save for comments. Bernard, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Matt, comments?
I have been listening to the debate over these, and again, I would just say that since demo delay, our only other option is to ask the city to put it, have it put on the city listing. I do not see that this home merits that, so I would approve releasing the delay.
Thank you, Matt. Marlene?
Well, I think in this whole proposal, this is the coolest house that's there. So I hope that they'll be able to relocate it, if that's an option at some point.
Thank you, Marlene. Sam?
I have nothing to say on this one.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I hate to see this house demolished, and I really would hope that it be relocated.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Daniel?
No comments.
Duncan?
Yeah, I'm probably the one who put the finger in the dike for a while here on this one, and I hate to see it go too. I'm glad to see that there's a bid alternate for relocation on it. We're not going to save this. We're not going to get in the way of the hospital project by keeping this house where it is. That's for sure. And if engineering needs to have the demolition permit in hand in order to proceed, then that's just seems to be what we're stuck with. But I hope we don't lose it.
Thank you, Duncan. And my comment is I agree with Duncan and our other commissioners on this. We would like, hopefully, that it can get relocated somewhere near and maybe over in the new hospital area and be able to save that house. So let's, I need a motion.
I move to release demolition delay 21-20.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So I don't have that dialogue in front of me, Gloria. So could you read that, please?
John, do you have a copy of it?
I don't have one here at home with me. I'm sorry.
Sorry. And John Zodi?
I do not, but okay. We try to pull that up here. So, do you want to give us a?
I am sorry. Give me 1 second. It's my first time presenting from home, so this is a new experience for me as well. I do not have the second. Steve, would you by any chance have access to the file with the documents?
I can try. Let me see.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for your patience. I know there's been a lot of conversation tonight and we still have a few more to go, so.
I don't think I can access anything from being in Zoom without leaving.
Understandable, don't worry. I'm just having trouble entering the city server at the moment.
I'll be right back.
Always the small technical things. Oh, okay.
I apologize. I thought I had a copy of it in my briefcase, but I don't.
Give me 1 second. I trying to see if I have.
I believe the John, I don't know if staff's allowed to read it, but I can try to share my screen if you'd like to read it. So,
John, you can also paste it in the comments section as well.
It's a PDF, so I'm not able to do that. So, John, what's the will of the commission here? You might try to share screen. John Saunders.
Okay.
John, I've got the language. Do you want me to read it or I can share my screen here?
If it's okay for you to read it, let's go ahead and read it. And then after this one, if you can email it to me, then I can read it off my screen.
Okay. Mike Ricker, do you see any problem with me reading it instead of a commissioner?
No, there's no problem with that. The language to move will actually have to come from a commissioner, but they can simply say so moved.
Okay. So the commissioners know what I'm reading is a resolution to stop demolition delay waiting period. 19 or 100 day 20, it's 19 or 120 day period has expired and allow partial demolition to begin if pursued. So the language is today regarding the property located at 409 West 2nd Street, Bloomington, Indiana. The Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the council, which is part of the text there. So that is the statement to read, and I believe we'll need this for the subsequent demolition delays as well.
Yes,
So
thank you,
moved.
John.
So moved.
Okay, Dean.
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Don Saunders,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Bernard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. One second here. So we have 6 properties that are being proposed for full demolition on East 19th Street, just to the side of the Indiana Memorial Stadium. These are 319, 401, 403, 405, 407, 421. I'm going to show them individually, but I did want to provide this context. 319 and 401 are smaller, sort of vernacular style ranch houses that have both elements of ranch and post-war vernacular construction. 403, 405, and 407 are all small American houses from dated to around 1950. And actually, I found an aerial photograph that I wasn't able to include in the presentation that shows the 3 houses with their roof lines as they are during the 1950s. 421 is, I'm gonna show it soon, is a mid-century modern sort of apartment building. So that's for a bit more context. So the first one, 319 East 19th Street, the petitioner Ryan Strasser for Strasser Construction, Inc. Is requesting for the full demolition of this and all of the other structures. So I just put some information that I found on Shard about they are all in pretty good condition, consistently with slight alterations. I recommended release of demo delay 2201. And I will defer to whatever the commissioners say about whether more research is necessary on the history of these houses, or whether to delay them as they are all in the same street. So that's what I have for now. I don't have, I would like to have more time to just do a little bit more historical research on the community that lived there, because the last few weeks have been extremely hectic. So I put staff recommendation as release for demo delay, but I wasn't able to do as much research as I wanted to on the 6 buildings. I will leave it up to you. They do speak stylistically. They are a mid-century, they have a combination of mid-century styles and a vernacular construction to them. John Saunders, would you like to look at them individually or look at them as a group?
I was going to ask that if we could group these all together and move forward that way. And my other question is, what is the zoning for this neighborhood?
Zoning is a good question. I can look that up. Is Keegan here?
I believe Keegan was on.
Okay.
This is Ryan Strasser with Strasser Construction. The zoning there is the MS, like the higher density student housing district. Currently, we're building a 5-story right adjacent to these properties in this area. So this is kind of the redevelopment going along with the moving more of the high density student housing into this area.
Thank you.
Thank
Ryan.
you.
John Saunders, I've also put the demolition delay language in the chat, and I emailed it to you as well for reference on these.
Thank you, John. I have gotten them.
Okay, so if we're grouping them together, the first structure was built, I can give a little bit more information according to the packet. It's dated to 1950 and is considered a massed ranch building with slight alterations to some of the windows and to the porch, which has been closed. A second property, 401 East 9th Street, is another massed ranch building, and it has had changes to the windows. I'm sorry. However, the proportions and sizing, sort of the massing from like aerial photographic view hasn't changed, has been maintained. 403 East 19th Street is considered a small American house. So it's a post-war vernacular style that begins to incorporate some more contemporary modernist and ranch detailing, however, maintains some of the proportions and some of the building technologies and techniques of older vernacular styles in the area. Its neighboring structure, 403 and 405, yes, actually share the same lot, is another small American house. And this one also shares some of the more it's sort of an intermediate between more contemporary modernist ranch forms and building materials, but maintain some of the proportions of older vernacular styles in the region. And a similar situation with the 407 East 9th Street, East 9th Street, which is also dated to around the same dates. So also to around 1950, and let me see here. Yeah, 1950, another small American house. It has some of that L shape that other buildings have, but the roof proportion and angles are already imitating some of the more contemporary ranch buildings of the 1950s. So again, these are 3 small vernacular buildings from sort of this intermediary era. And then there is that's not 407. The address is wrong. It is 421. I don't know why I always want to say 419, but it's 421 East 19th Street. And this is actually the outlier of the buildings. This is a modern, sort of a late modernist, mid-century modern apartment style building. And it has 2 sister structures in front of it, which are part of another property. And I just, it's dated to 1960, but I didn't find it in the 1960 aerial photograph. It could have been built later in 1960 or maybe in the early 1960s, 1961, 1962. But I began doing research, but wasn't able to find more information on these structures. So yeah, that's where I'm at. On the one hand, the other structures are on vernacular, pretty simple structures, some of them, but they all contribute to each other. And they're all part of this sort of an era of building and a vernacular era that's not, I don't know, I haven't seen too many cases like that come before us. So yeah, I'll leave it to all of you to comment and talk about it.
All right, thank you, Gloria. So do we have any questions? Renee, Renard?
No questions.
Matt?
Nope.
Marlene?
No questions.
Sam?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
No questions.
Daniel?
No questions.
Duncan?
I guess a question for Gloria. When you say on here that you request more time to research, are you asking us to wait so you can do that, or I'd like some clarification from you.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Either because it is a 90-day demolition delay. If I could have until the next meeting, that would give me more time to go to the Monroe County Archives and see what I can find. And if I can't find anything, I can't. But at least it would give me time to do a little bit more due diligence than I like just if they're all going to be demolished. I just want to make sure that I research their history and make sure that, you know, what's done is done.
Yeah, Gloria, but I think that because it's demolition delay, and this is zoned as it is, we would have to recommend to city council to save these houses.
Why is that?
Because this neighborhood is not designated.
No, I understand that, but we can delay this decision for 90 days. So I'm not sure what your rationale was about. We have to send it on to the city.
If I'm correct about demolition delay, then if we turn this down and if we wait till our next meeting and decide not to allow the demolition to take place, then we would have to recommend these be moved to historic, to be designated historic. Am I not right on that?
I thought we could continue it.
Absolutely, we can continue it.
So Gloria is asking, or has requested more time to research, which would imply a continuation. That's all I was saying. I'm not sure everybody wants to do that. I'm just trying to clarify her request.
Yeah. I again, with everything, I defer to the commissioners. The decisions are yours. This is simply me as staff trying to make sure I do my due diligence. I provided all the information I was able to find on them. So if it is enough information for you to make your decision, that is perfectly fine with me. If you do feel that doing a bit more research on my part would help you make a decision, that's where my request comes in.
Thank you, Gloria. So we would need a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Well, did everybody get to make a comment or?
No. You haven't gone through the questions and comments.
Well,
sorry, guys.
The questions.
We've done questions.
Yeah, we did the questions.
We've done the questions. So we'll move to comments then. Renard?
No comments.
Matt?
You know, I don't think I would need any additional information, although I appreciate Gloria wanting to do that. but I think I'm fine and I would approve releasing these.
Thank you, Matt. Marlene?
Oops, no comments.
Sam?
I would just reiterate what Matt said.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I would like to know more information about those homes and also if they can be saved. And then I know it's planned for dense population for IU students. And why does it have to be just for IU students? Isn't there a housing shortage for residents in Bloomington? And could it be a combination? I don't know, I'm just asking, but I would like to try to save the houses, the individual houses.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Daniel?
I don't have any comment at this time.
Duncan?
No comment.
I don't have any comment.
I'm sorry. Let me just say that in the interest of what Elizabeth said, there could be pertinent history here that I think that's what Gloria is alluding to. I know where this is, and I know that, you know, heaven help us, let's build some more apartment buildings no matter what. But, you know, these are dwellings that are in good enough shape to live in, and if there's an option to move them or you know, at least use them for minimal housing for somebody else, then I'm all for it. But in the interest of what Gloria is asking, just documenting the stuff that we're destroying is important.
Yes.
So I think that, you know, I would agree with Elizabeth to the extent that you know, knowing what we're losing matters. So I would prefer to see a continuance to give Gloria a chance to do a little more work.
Thank you, Duncan. So I would need a motion for continuance.
Marlene?
John, can I just say one thing? I totally agree with Elizabeth about the idea that, you know, you're replacing these houses, which I don't know whether they're student houses, but the initial intent was not as student houses, I don't think, housing. And I really think that, I mean, this isn't the place and the time, but I'll say it anyways. I really wish that the city would start to look at more housing that integrated different sorts of people and economic strata. And I think it would be more successful in a way, because when you have mixed populations instead of just student housing, people are more responsible because they have neighbors who are not necessarily in the same age group. And it's sort of a thing that, you know, went on in Boston a lot when we were there, and it goes on in a lot of other cities. And I kind of wish that the city itself would look at more multi-dimensional housing developments rather than monolithic ones.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen to that.
Thank you, Marlene. So that leads us to where we need to have a motion to continue.
I make a motion to continue, please. I don't see the number, but I make a motion to continue.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Dee?
Okay, Marlene Newman,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
No.
Bernard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, let's move on to old business, the Cascades National Register nomination.
So I titled this Third Time's the Charm. It says mainly due to a technicality. I had to go back, sort of set the clock back a bit on the Cascades National Register of Historic Places nomination. for a while. For those of you who are new here, the city, the Parks and Rec actually was working with the stabilization of the Griffey Creek and the walls around it. And as part of the process, they needed to do section 106, work with the, with the engineers, trying to think of the Corps of Engineer, the Army Corps of Engineer, because this is a national body of water. And during the process, it was found that the Cascades Park has merits for nomination to the National Register of Historic Places. So that sort of cascaded this process, no pun intended, really no pun intended. But after a lot of work, a lot of research and documentation, everything is almost set to go up to state and then up to the federal government. Yes, the vote for the HPC vote is required, but before the HPC vote, various other pieces of documentation and processes were required as well. So I've already brought this 2 times, this 3rd time's the charm. Hopefully, if everybody agrees with the staff recommendation that the Cascades Park, which was purchased by the city in the early 20th century and went through extensive WPA renovations and constructions, and has 2 historic golfing courses and all of these resources have been maintained in pretty good condition, pretty intact for what it is. Yeah, we'll be able to send this out. So let me know if you have any questions or what part of the proceeds next.
Thank you, Gloria. Bernard, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Matt, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Marlene?
No question.
Sam?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
No questions.
Daniel?
No questions.
Duncan?
No.
I don't have any questions. So, Gloria, we need a motion to move this forward. Okay. Would somebody make a motion for us?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dee.
Marlene Newman,
Yes, and I think it's a really good project.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Sam DeSoller,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Seddon,
Yes.
Bernard Cross,
Yes.
Daniel Slagle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, great. Good work, Gloria.
Thank you for your patience with this.
No problem, no problem. So do we have any commissioner comments tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to mention something or make maybe make a request to my fellow commissioners. Is that okay? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay with me.
All right. I want to be clear. I truly respect everything that I've heard tonight, and both the stuff that was directly related to historic preservation and all the other comments. And I very much enjoy working with everybody and look forward to getting to know people even better. But I'm concerned when we as commissioners drift and make comments about our feelings on city zoning, our feelings on city actions, our feelings on the direction of city growth and things like that. While in many cases, I'm in agreement with what the commissioners are saying, and I don't think that they're saying anything necessarily bad in general. I'm very concerned about saying them in these meetings, and there's a couple of reasons I'm concerned for that, and it mostly has to do with the health of historic preservation, and it comes out of some of my experience. So I used to be the Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer in Utah, worked closely with the historic preservation community there as well. And what I watched over time was that when the mandate and clarity of what the historic preservation folks were doing and more general things about development and construction and things like that got mixed in the minds of a lot of people. The historic preservation people were overstepping their bounds, and therefore, in the long run, it did a lot of damage to historic preservation, including that the state legislature removed the position of state archaeologist, in part because of this. Now, I'm not saying that these comments that have been made or are being made are necessarily going to lead to the same thing. I would just caution us to stay on our mandate, stay on the scope of what we are asked to do, and to keep our comments and thoughts about the general city development either to ourselves or to go to the zoning and planning meetings where those things are discussed and raise them there. I think that mentioning them here also doesn't do anything, doesn't change anything, doesn't do anything other than annoy people that are here for other reasons, make them listen to other things. So with all of that said, I just respectfully would like for my fellow commissioners to consider that in the future as they comment.
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sam.
This is hopefully a request for a follow-up from legal on a couple of censures, I guess you'd say. I just want to know if there's an update on the apartment house at 2nd and, what is it, 2nd and Fest, and also the house where the stucco was removed at University and Valentine, I think.
I don't know if that request was to legal, but I'm going to have to defer to John Zodi, unfortunately, on those.
Yeah, Sam, because Daniel Dixon's out, we'll have to get a follow-up to you. So I'll talk to Daniel and see if we can get some information back to you.
Thanks.
Sorry, we don't have that for you tonight.
No. I mean, the reason I'm especially pushing on the house on University and I think it's Valentine, but forgive me if I'm wrong with the cross street, is that the owner put it up for sale without mitigating his removal of original materials. So I just want to keep pushing on that one.
Yep.
And I also note that I also note that on the designated apartment building, the rental company has attached some signage, which was also not approved. So we should harass them about that at some point too.
I'll put an email together now with you and Daniel, Sam, and so I'm sure when he's back in business, he'll get back with us. So
Sounds
thanks
good
for the question.
Oh, and then one other thing, John, let's not forget Jeff and Chris.
Absolutely. One more comment for what you're talking about there, Sam. That property did sell. So what would we like to do for Jeff and Chris as departed members? In the past, we have given some recognition to them, either in the form of a letter or something else. I'm open to how everybody wants to handle this. When other people have left, Chris would always, come up with, a quilt or something like that we would pass on.
You think Chris needs a quilt because he's given all his away?
So I wanted to comment two things. Duncan has his hand up, and Lee Sandwise also left the commission.
We did not know that Lee had left too. Thank you for letting us. So what we would like to do for these folks, I'm open to suggestions. Sam?
Sorry, my computer's getting excitable. No, I think a letter is appropriate, and I think I'd like to get with some of the old timers, probably you, John, and anybody else who wants to jump in, because I think both Jeff and Chris especially has, they left a big mark. So their service to this commission and to the city in general have been, they're long timers, and I really appreciate that. And I don't want them to escape without some harassment from us.
Okay, I think that's a great suggestion. So why don't we get together, and Sam, you and I, or even anybody else, and we'll put together a letter for Jeff and Chris and Lee. And is that something that the city can put on their letterhead for us and those sort of things?
Yeah, John Zodi, can we put a letterhead on it? Oh, I think so. I mean, if it's signed by the HPC.
If there's an HPC, yeah, if there's an HPC letter, we put it on hand letterhead, I think.
Yeah.
If there's an HPC action there.
All right, thank you.
Duncan, you have your hand raised?
I do. A couple of things. One, I don't know if that needs a motion or not to send that letter, but one of the other things that we've done on occasion is read an encomium at city council. We haven't always done it, but we have done it. I'm thinking about Nancy Heaston, Rosemary Miller, among others. So that's another option. And then my other comment was, I just wanted to welcome the new members and say welcome back, Marlene. I've missed having you here.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Okay.
Sorry, John.
Sort of riffing on what Duncan was talking about, when we were back in the day when we met in the same room, and we had new people and old people, old hands or whatever. We'd go around the room and tell a little bit about ourselves. And I think maybe, this has been a longer meeting, so maybe not tonight, but just so people know a little bit more about who they're dealing with, it might be nice to do that next time around.
I'm reviewing with that, Sam. Thank you for bringing it up. Any more comments? Do we have any public comments? Any announcements? All right, we're adjourned.